So when black people don't do anything, then we say that they're too quiet.
Mhm.
Or I've even said even about the church, they're the sleeping giants. So when they're not doing anything. And so
Mhm.
now because we have somebody rising up and they're saying we're not taking any more of this.
It's a
Period.
threat.
It stops
Mhm.
today. So and then you calling it poking.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it,
I
it
don't
can be
know.
perceived
Yeah.
as a threat. I mean, I think to a lot of white people, especially right now, I mean, black people don't want to be stereotyped, but you are stereotyping every single white person when you speak of white people.
Mhm.
White people do this. White people do. When you poke at white people, you're poking at all white people, at all of us, and
But
you're
Jill,
stereotyping
now
us in ways that you don't want us to
but,
stereotype you.
hun, I get it, but when you say that, I mean, you have to really think about what you're saying because that's what they've been doing to us all the time where you get why do you think we say driving while black? Because this whole stereotype, when we look at well, it's just so many we can look at. I walked past a lady, I had a purse, when I thought I looked, like a decent person, and she locked her car doors really
I had
fast.
this discussion with somebody the
And
other day.
and I'm saying it happens all
Mhm,
the
mhm.
time. So I'm saying when you start talking about that, it's just wake up, white people.
But that's
We've
how
been dealing with this forever.
and I
Mhm.
think a lot of white people feel like, "Okay, so how long am I gonna be punished for this?
But
Do you wanna be mad
But
at me for
but
this? Do you wanna be mad at the whole
no,
all the
it's
white people
not
for this?"
collective. It's not
But
collective,
that's
and
how
that's
it's
the thing.
perceived.
But
That's how
that's
it's
that's not
perceived.
it.
that's
I've
because
never had a cross burned in my yard,
yeah.
but I do know somebody that lives in Fort Wayne that had a cross burned in theirs. So I get it. It's not everybody, and that's on both cultures, in all cultures. So everybody won't have the same story. But the truth is, it could happen and
And,
it
and
exists.
Jill, your response, unfortunately, is a sound of self-preservation for the white community. You're saying,
100%.
why are you coming at us now? What are we supposed to do? How long are we supposed to not
What
do
are we
anything?
supposed to do? What do you want from us?
We want we want you to treat us like we're people.
Me?
No, we don't want to be treated
That's what I'm
like you.
saying.
No,
No, no, you
no.
want me to treat you like that or who what do you want from
Okay,
white people?
okay.
If you could say, "Hey, all white people."
I'm gonna answer two questions at one time, if you allow me. For years, we have been behind, so we're asking for a fair, level playing field. Give us the chances that are set out in all these policies that they're set out for people. It doesn't say people of color. It doesn't say white people. It says people. So we want those policies to be set out and equal for us, as is stated in those policies.
So as a normal just one person, one white person, and the other people that wanna know, what can I do to help? What can people do to help? Because what you're talking about is a system that's been built
Right. By who?
for
Who built the
a
system?
lot white people,
Okay. So
some
that's
white people,
self-preservation. So you're still keeping those laws, those things in place.
to the audience, to white people. I mean, there are people I know people that have said,
Mm.
You're
"What can
saying
I do?" Like,
exactly.
legitimately.
But
I'm
you know
asking,
what?
"What can
It's
I do
it's
to do
not
my
even
part?"
it's
What
not even about what you can do from a materialistic perspective. Is it's not what a individual can do. It's a cultural mindset that has to change, that has to be taught from
Which starts from
generation to
individuals.
generation. And
well,
so it has to start somewhere. But one of the things that I want to, just make sure we mention that we understand it's not all white people. We have white business owners, business leaders in this community that's reaching out to Black business owners and business leaders
Mhm.
and just the general
looking
public
to help.
to assist and to help in whatever way, whether it's money or sitting down, talking, having a conversation, trying to find out how they can help. So we get that. But what
Well,
we're talking about goes beyond that.
so to get
And
deeper into it, so to solve the issue, you're trying to solve the issue. What you guys could do, you talk to how many white people and you've had a conversation with them that I probably would never have the conversation
Mhm.
or they wouldn't be comfortable having that conversation with me. For you to be that one person to have that conversation with them and possibly educate them on what you've learned, that way you can help. But there's nothing you can do beyond being supportive because internally we need to fix the problem.
that's where you have
But it's not just internally because these systems that are put in place are still there.
Like you said, I have a lot of conversations that you would never have, and you would be appalled to hear some of the conversations, some of the words that come out of people's mouths because they're comfortable saying it to me because I'm white. Never mind that I'm human. There are some people that you cannot tell how they feel about racism or hate or anything else until you actually have a real conversation. And a lot of that is from education.
Mhm.
White people barely know their own history in many cases, let alone black history.
Mhm.
When you learn the history of anything, animals, people, whatever, you start to understand. When you start to understand, you start to feel. When you start to feel, that's when you start to come together.
Mhm.
And don't you agree? And that's why I said, don't you agree that people have to want to change? People have to want to
Right.
be different, be
Right.
other than that monster
Right.
that they are. So it's just kind of like when you mention animals, when they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink,
Mhm.
you can lead and you can teach a man what's right and what that man should do to live a good life. But if that man doesn't take that drink, if that man decides, I don't want anything to do with that, he's going to remain that same monster.
Do you honestly believe that if you were all right now shackled at your ankles and I walked by with a group of white people, do you not think that I would give everything in my power to come and get you out of those?
You
See, that's the
would.
problem. That's the problem.
You
You are
would.
the only one that's gonna do it.
But I'm not.
Yes,
I'm the only one that
well,
says it.
I'm gonna say that's the problem. And you ask, what do we, and we're gonna talk community. What do we want from you? You just said you sit at a table and you hear these conversations until you put those people in their place and say you're not gonna talk about them like that, and you're gonna teach your children not to see us like that. It's not gonna change. So as Dr. V said, it has to be a whole reprogramming of thought. While you sit there and you walk away from that conversation with not correcting it. Self preservation, and this is what I'm saying self preservation, we got to stop looking at oneself. That's the problem. We continue to look at oneself as self preservation. Until you tell those people sitting across from you, they're no different than you and I. We are the same. That they are us. We are them. It's not going to change. But you get up and walk away from that conversation and you come and tell us, well, you should have heard what they said. No, until you say, no, we're not going to talk about them like that. We're not going to look at them like that. We need to start looking at them as who they are. That's when the change comes. When you start seeing me
As an
as the
end.
person sitting across that table and you can respect me as that same person, that's when it's going to change.
So
Right, as
basically
an
the
end and
other
not a
day on
means.
a public post that I shared with you when I did come to the defense of
And
black
I'm not
people,
saying you.
I
I'm
put
real.
my no, I know, but I
Okay.
put my own self-preservation on hold
Uh-huh.
to stick up and fight for what's right for people
For
that don't even
others.
look like me.
Right.
Right.
Against my people, my peers. They're not my people, those will never be my people, but
Right.
my color.
Right.
So you're saying that I should have stuck up for you, which I think I showed you that I did. And a lot of other people are
And I
like
and I
me.
and again, I'm not saying you.
Well,
The personal, it's not me and you. This is not me and you. We're not going back and forth. I'm not making it personal. I'm not going to put this burden on you to change everybody. When I say you, I'm talking about we got to see, we're talking about self preservation, if I'm correct. And I'm saying when we got to stop seeing oneself, oneself.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. We only see oneself. We only care about oneself until
Absolutely.
until you start caring about me. And I'm not
And
saying you and you, communities. We can
people.
see people seeing people
Mhm.
until we can start seeing ourselves as one self. It's not going to change. We always going to see color, race, sex, finances, whatever. So the preservation is going to be for oneself.
I have a question. I mean, and this is directed to our community because everybody's talking about blacks killing blacks. And you're probably hearing about whites killing whites. Well, in my community, they're talking about blacks killing blacks. But yet at the same time, we're talking about Black Lives Matter.
Hmm.
And today we happen to be talking about self-preservation.
Hmm.
And when you begin to speak about a culture of people, I'm wondering when are we gonna wake up for real
Mm.
and begin to self-preserve a culture of people.
Don't hesitate, wake up, no time for sleeping on the issues. This is neutral voices, we gon' deal with the issues. Your voice matters, important, so you